episode was brought to you by Bitcoin.
It's all going to zero against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Because they expect
because they want to sell it eventually, Michael. I mean, let's be honest. Most of the people who are, yes, sure, some people pass it on to their children, but like most of the people who are buying assets at some point want to sell the assets at a profit. So let me say it a different way.
Okay. People that use fiat currency as a store of value, there's a name for them. We call them poor. Okay. Anybody that's rich in the
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. A couple of technical difficulties getting the show started because I really wanted to start with that cold open of Michael Saylor just literally saying that anyone who's holding the dollar is absolutely poor. And once again, he's wearing the Bitcoin merch. I feel like the beard is getting a little bit longer. What you're seeing, ladies and gentlemen, is an experience that most Bitcoiners that have been around a cycle or two have gone through, which is the feeling of vindication, right? You always get beat down, in the bear market. That's when you get the text from your friends and your family. The only difference here is that it's a billionaire that's able to leverage his, now Fortune 500 company in order to continue to essentially raise more money to buy more Bitcoin, literally a speculative attack on the dollar. And here he is on national TV, and we have the whole interview for you guys, and we'll play it for you guys during the news segment, but I wanted to start off the show with it. And here he is, literally, the reporter's asking him, okay, but Michael, when are you going to sell? Which is a question that I know if you're a Bitcoiner, you've heard this question asked to you before. And my answer, Saylor was more blunt than I am, but he was just you're going to be poor essentially, but what are you going to sell it to? Right. So oh, when are you going to sell? It's okay, so I'm going to sell something that has absolute scarcity. There's 21 million of, to something that there's an infinite amount of, that, this bureaucratic elite have the ability to just create it out of thin air. Janet Yellen there was a clip going on Twitter. We'll play it for you guys tomorrow, but literally they asked her in the interview, do you regret this whole inflation? She's like, yeah, I regret that it was going to be transitory. Okay, yeah, but there's a lot of consequences to the words that she said. There's a lot of consequences to, this money printing. So shout out to Michael Saylor to continue to shift the Overton window. Drake the other day reposted, and Drake has a massive following. He's, a very mainstream kind of, pop culture phenomenon, whatever you'd like to call him. And he Instagrammed a clip of Michael Saylor in an interview. This is what it takes, ladies and gentlemen. This is how we win over the culture. This is how we unify the nation under a common message, which is fix the money, fix the world, or fix the money, fix the nation, right? I think that a lot of the divisions that a lot of people are experiencing right now are because of the broken money, right? Broken money causes broken incentives, a broken incentive structure. People can't afford rent. People can't afford housing. If you're not on a Bitcoin standard, I might add. If you're on a Bitcoin standard, all of that has gotten significantly cheaper as time progresses. So yes, this is absolutely hysterical, but this is Saylor's vindication. This is his vindication. This is his victory lap. This is the victory lap that you had, your first cycle, or if you're new to Bitcoin, the cycle that you're, in a couple years you're going to have with your friends and your family. And this is Saylor's way of kind of rubbing it in people's faces. Remember, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, all these legacy media institutions attacked this man. I never forget seeing him at Pacific Bitcoin 2022 in Los Angeles, and he was sitting front stage in the VIP area. and Bitcoin was sitting at 16,000. The average price MicroStrategy acquired a Bitcoin at was about 29K, 30K. And, you know, he had a you know, face of steel. He was convinced that he was correct. He was convinced that he was right. But despite that, like, no matter how much you believe you're right, you're still down, you know, technically. And that's what us Bitcoiners call paying the price of tuition. So Michael Saylor paid the price of tuition. So did Nayib Bukele on the nation state level. And this is his vindication. And he's just dropping bombs on TV. And I'm telling you, just from personal experience and what I've seen from other Bitcoiners, like the longer you go, the more time you spent down the rabbit hole, the less you start to give AF about just the norms and about things, because you know that you have unconfiscatable wealth. So if you're a good person, you don't break the law, you whatever, you don't really care, right? You're good, right? And it starts to give you like this, like no F's given type of vibe and feeling around you. If you guys have ever seen Eric Cason, he's like a living embodiment of this. I absolutely love the man. Because there you have an example of an OG who just literally, he just doesn't give AF, right? And there's many of them. You now that I pointed it out, you'll start to notice them. And what tends to happen is I'm like kind of kidding, but I'm kind of not kidding. Facial hair starts to get longer and longer. I couldn't grow facial hair before my first Bitcoin cycle. So maybe the two have something in common. Maybe I'm just talking shit. But I will tell you this, Michael Saylor's beard did look a little bit longer, Opti. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did. He's definitely leaning into just not caring at all anymore, especially because he's right. It does seem like he's taking victory laps on the corporate press, and you just love to see it. That clip is absolutely hilarious. And then also he dropped so much signal in that clip, so I'm glad we're playing it. But before we go on, Nico, shouts out to Thomas Hara. We already got a super chat.
By the way, we have the super chats enabled by popular request. A lot of people were saying like, why don't you have the super
chats? Take my money. And so he's talking about the poll. I put a poll on our YouTube, kind of trolling today. Are you feeling like optimistic fields or pessimistic fields today? And he goes, the Pessy fields are hitting earlier this cycle. I think what he means is we're all getting less sats, man. Our dollar is being decimated.
Dude, remember Opti and I, because this is like around our same cycle time. But remember when $100 got you a million sats?
Dude, I still do $100 million sats math in my head.
It was like $100, like 3 million sats. I remember that.
What even is a million sats right now? It's like $600.
Crazy, something nuts.
And then on another note,
it's like $700, bro.
$700, yes, yeah. 720 or whatever it is, 702 or something. I can't grow a beard, guys. I got to keep it short.
Maybe one day. Be able to grow maybe a beard. One day. Just give him a couple more cycles, and then it just gets, you know, it just kind of fills out. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Simply Bitcoin, the most watched daily Bitcoin live show on YouTube, Rumble, and X. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. It really helps with the YouTube algos. And if you're watching us on X, smash the like button, share the video with your friends. We have to win over the hearts and minds of people. We have to wake them up to the reality that it's not left versus right. It's not red versus blue. It's green versus orange. And if enough people wake up to that reality, that is how we win. Anyways, I want to bring up one of our legendary Zoomers. The Zoomer generation is the first generation that is internet native. So it's, you guys, you know, when Opti and I were going through, Opti and I are kind of similar age, but when Opti and I were going through high school, the internet was starting to kind of take off, right? You know, I had the BBM, the BlackBerry, and you'd kind of like BBM your friends in school and stuff like that. But your generation, the internet was like fully established, you know, when you guys came of age, when you guys started to become conscious and stuff. So what I see with the Zoomers is your guys' ability to navigate the internet is like a second hand. It's not red versus blue. It's Nico versus. Your guys' ability to navigate the internet comes innate to you. It's almost as if you guys are kind of born with it. And Bryson, for anyone who doesn't know, is a new member of the Simply Bitcoin Twitter crew.
He's our Zoomer with the algos.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it's so guys, by the way, if you haven't followed the Simply Bitcoin Twitter account, it's absolutely awesome. We have one of the best Bitcoin news aggregator accounts, so check it out. Definitely go to @simplybitcointv if you guys want to stay in the loop with the latest Bitcoin news. And Bryson is one of the members of the Simply Bitcoin Twitter team. Bryson, thank you so much for joining us. Bryson said something really interesting when I tapped him yesterday. I said, "Hey man, do you want to join us on the show?" He's like, "Man, I have class," and I put like Simply Bitcoin greater than class. And he said yes. So Bryson, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. I appreciate it.
Of course, I'm glad to be here. No, I'm skipping some fiat school, but daylight savings is also fiat, which is also just a disaster, right? I mean, it's like Arizona is the only based state that doesn't have it, and so that's like the only reason I haven't left the state, and so that's actually the reason I'm able to be here. So it's actually great. Worked out well.
Let's go. Wait, Nico, hold up. We got another one.
We got another super chat by the Gold Eagle 99. Yo, Nico, I still can't find your Strike account name. I wanted to send you a Bitcoin donation. Yeah, at BitVault7. It's like my old Twitter handle before I got the new one.
Oh my God, they keep coming in. Jeez, shouts out to you guys.
Appreciate the super chat. Oh, we got another one. And here we go from Young Kings. Thanks for the $5. It says, "Thank you, Saylor, for figuring out the real life GTA money glitch. Best Bitcoin show." Man, really appreciate it, dude. Thank you so much. We try to put our heart and soul into each episode. Anyways, guys, before we move on to the show, I do want to give a shout out to our lead sponsor, and of course, I'm talking about bitcoinwell.com. They're the best to build. They're the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, future-proof your money. And the way that you could do that is by going to bitcoinwell.com. They're a publicly traded company coming out of Canada that recently expanded to all 50 US states. And they're on a mission to make self-custody the default standard in the US. That's right. You can't buy Bitcoin at BitcoinWell unless you're going to take self-custody, which perfectly aligns with the Simply Bitcoin ethos of the separation of money and state. I also want to give a shout out to the Bitcoin Jackpot Contest. It's currently live right now. If you go to bitcoinwell.com/contest, currently the jackpot is almost at 2.6 million Satoshis. That's right. Every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well and you enter into the jackpot, you have the opportunity to win that jackpot. And also every single day of this week, we will be giving away, or Bitcoin Well will be giving away, a free stamp seed phrase storage kit. That's right. If you enter into the contest right now, it's an opportunity to win yourself a stamp seed storage kit on top of the 2.6 million Satoshi jackpot. And that jackpot keeps getting bigger the more people sign up to it. So what are you waiting for? Visit bitcoinwell.com/contest for more details if you want to help push and help make self-custody by default the standard in the US. Sign up to bitcoinwell.com today. All right, everybody, let's get to news. We have a lot to talk about.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Is your seed phrase really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them on paper. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. You want to put your generational wealth on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. Your words are actually stamped into this metal plate with this hammer and these letter stamps. And once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamped seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin with peace of mind for the long haul. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. I saw someone in the chat asking if anyone's going to halving party in El Salvador. Yes, the whole Simply Bitcoin crew will be at the halving party. Hope to see you guys there. I believe we have a promo. It's either Simply or Simply Bitcoin. Speaking of promos, guys, you can use the promo code Simply to get 15% off the Stamp Seed seed phrase storage kit. And for anyone who doesn't quite understand, this doesn't mean that you send your seed phrase to them. They send you a seed phrase storage kit. So like they literally send you a hammer, a piece of titanium, and you literally, it's in the name, you stamp your seed in the titanium with the hammer at home where no one sees it. And the reason you want to do that is because paper, you know, to put it bluntly, sucks ass. Just, you know, it could be eaten, could be set on fire. Do you really think Bitcoin, do you really think paper is going to last 100 years? I would put my bet on titanium, one of the strongest metals on planet Earth. Anyways, promo code Simply.
Wait, Nico, geez, we're going to have to figure out, hold on, we're going to have to figure out a way to do this so we don't just break in our everything. But shouts out to John, super chat of $50, amazing. Stay humble. I don't know if he's telling us to stay humble or that we should just continue to stay humble, but really appreciate it, brother. All right, go, Nico.
I mean, I'm kind of blown away already, guys. Really appreciate the super chats. Thank you so much. It really, really helps the channel and helps us stay independent. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 72,630 sats per dollar, 1,377. Block height, 834,531. Blocks to halving, 5,469. Halving estimate April 19, 2024. Total Lightning Network capacity, 4,374 Bitcoin. Capacity value, 317 million US dollars. Realized monetary inflation, 1.74%. The total market cap of Bitcoin, it's sitting pretty at $1.43 trillion. And the Bitcoin versus gold market cap continues to tick up. It is at 10.34%. Anyways, in the grand scheme of things, we are just getting started. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I do have a video for you guys. And it's kind of a reminder, right? And I say this, and a lot of people take it as me being hyperbolic, but I'm not hyperbolic when I say the things that I say. The statements that I say are always meant to instigate and to get a response from people in a positive way, and for people to understand what is on the line. There's nothing hyperbolic when I say Bitcoin or slavery. There are elements of the current U.S. government that see the only future of money in the United States is a future of central bank digital currencies. That future is a future of slavery. That future is a future of nihilism. That future is a future of war, of poverty, of destruction, and all these negative things that come with the central control or government control or political money. So understand what's in front of you, especially if you live in the US and if you live around the world. And as we'll get to during the news segment, this is what governments have planned. This is the government response towards Bitcoin. It's not adopting it. It's not saying, okay, it could actually help us make better. No, the bureaucratic elite, the political class, and the central banker class want to do whatever it takes in order to retain the privilege of being able to create money for free that everyone else has to work for, even though that has catastrophic consequences, specifically to the lower and middle classes, that are the classes that generally tend to save in the fiat money of their country, right? Anyways, so here is the Bitcoin Senator Cynthia Lummis of Wyoming, and she's asking Chairman Powell point blank about a central bank digital currency. And I'll give a little bit more context after the video is played.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome. It's nice to see you, Mr. Powell. My first question is about CDBCs. There's been some chatter lately on the social media that people are concerned about the Fed creating a CDBC without legislative authorization. You and I have discussed that before, and as you know, there are other means other than a CDBC that could use digital assets to create a secure and instant payment system other than a CDBC. So the question is this: do you still agree that the Federal Reserve cannot introduce a U.S. central bank digital currency without congressional authorization?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. That's really calms people's fears, the people who are concerned that we could end up with something like the digital yuan that is used as a means of surveillance. So I think that will calm some of those discussions down. Thank you so much.
Absolute political masterclass by Senator Cynthia Lummis. You know, such tact, such grace approaching that, but asking it point blank. And here's the thing. It's becoming incredibly more difficult as time progresses, just because of how the U.S. government and how the country is structured in general, with the individual states having some type of sovereignty over the federal government, where there's individual states where anti-CBDC bills have already been introduced, including the state of Florida, right? So if, whatever reason they find a way to circumvent the legislative process, which is what I believe they're really trying to do. Elizabeth Warren has been caught on tape, on interviews, literally saying, yeah, we need this CBDC. And then on the other hand, she's basically making the case as to why Bitcoin, is a danger to humanity, it's a danger to the country, right? Somehow, an individual having the ability to hold unconfiscatable, undebasable wealth is somehow dangerous, right? So make no mistake, this was a very good move by Cynthia Lummis, because once again, putting it on record, getting the head, the chair of the Federal Reserve to admit we can't roll out a central bank digital currency without the approval of Congress, and good luck doing that in Congress because of how divided the Congress is right now. And to add more fuel to the fire, so to speak, we played you guys this video the other day of it was actually just announced yesterday, the Republican candidate for president of 2024, Donald Trump. I understand a lot of people see him as divisive. He's running on a platform, I'll let him say it, not me.
Tonight, I'm also making another promise to protect Americans from government tyranny. As your president, I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency. You know about that?
So even Trump was surprised. He was like, whoa, like, wow, people really care about this. So the point that I'm trying to make is, people are, we have them on their back heels. We have them on their back heels on a state level. On the federal level, Cynthia Lummis doing her job. Tom Emmer is doing an amazing job, not to mention all the other congressmen and congresswomen that have been kind of really on top of this on the state level as well. So I don't think they'll be able to backdoor this as much as, they're being able to do this in the EU. And where in the EU, they're running full steam ahead with the central bank digital currency, even though it's been said many, many times, it's not really necessary. But again, it is necessary in a world of Bitcoin. It is extremely necessary in a world of Bitcoin. And again, I'll say this, guys, if a CBDC and Bitcoin cannot coexist, Bitcoin is anti-CBDC technology. If people had a choice between using unconfiscatable money, deflationary money versus inflationary money versus unconfiscatable money, you let me know what 99% of people will choose, including the politicians themselves. Remember what Boris Johnson said when Tucker approached him and said, "Hey, will you come on my show? I want to interview you because you've been talking so much shit about me." And Boris Johnson responded, supposedly, this is what Tucker said. One of Boris Johnson's assistants said, "Yes, but I want $1 million in gold or Bitcoin. So like even the politicians themselves, are talking about this. So don't pay attention to what they say, pay attention to what they do. This is the battle of our time. This is the battle of our generation. And we got the millennial generation in the house and we got the Zoomer generation in the house. So I'm going to pass it on to the Zoomer first. Bryson, I mean, bro, our parents had it fucking easy, dude. I'll just say that. I started off with that. Now like we're literally competing so that we're not enslaved, in 10 years. Like their own propaganda is literally saying by 2030 you'll own nothing and be happy. Like fuck that, man. I'll own Bitcoin and be happy. But it's pretty crazy, man. So look, as a Zoomer, obviously our generations have gotten the shorter end of the stick. Your generation's gotten even the shorter end of the stick. What does Bitcoin mean to you? What does these CBDCs mean to you? How do you feel when you see this political class in Washington talking all this nonsense? How does it make you feel? And how does it make your peers feel around you that are awakened, better said?
The closest analogy I can make is it makes me feel like a hippie in the 60s voting against the Vietnam War, right? Of saying, I don't want to go sign up for a war and perhaps give my life up for a cause I don't really believe in. And I think that's very prominent in what's happening in Washington, D.C. today. In college, I have a lot of peers, and myself included, who want to have families one day, right? And my parents waited until their 30s to have kids. So my parents waited until they were 33-ish to have me, and older for my siblings. And so a thought that's really been keeping me up at night is, well, if I wait until I'm in my 30s, my kids are never going to be able to meet my parents, right? My parents are never going to really have a meaningful relationship with their grandchildren. And with Bitcoin as a good savings medium and store value, I can pull in, the age at which I want to start having children. So instead of waiting until my 30s, I can perhaps have kids mid-20s, right? And say, hey, I'm not as worried financially. I have a fiat job, paying for all the bills and the kids. And I'm not as worried as saying, hey, if I lose my job, I can go and grab my gold egg and pull some Bitcoin savings out if I need to make sure my kids have a good future, and I can put food on the table for them and my wife. And if one day I get married, and it's tough because I see all of my peers around me going to college for the wrong reason. I'm actually sitting in my college library right now. They're all going to college for the wrong reason.
Love it. All right. I think Nico had to check his internet. So, but yeah, okay. Love what you said, Bryson. Oh, he's back. Let me just jump in here on that CBDC video. You guys know me. I am very skeptical of anything coming out of politicians' mouth. In my opinion, it's usually a bunch of lies. With that being said, shouts out to Cynthia Lummis. And I think all of us Bitcoiners are at the very least acknowledging the importance of having people that are aware of what Bitcoin is and that are aware of the dangers of CBDCs. And so while it does sound very good and it is a little, you guys don't want that. While it does sound good and it is a good soundbite of Jerome Powell saying that they can't actually push a CBDC, nor do they really want to push a CBDC. At least that's what they're saying themselves. It is not above anyone from the government, the political class, to potentially push a CBDC through if there is a quote unquote emergency. So while it does sound good and it is a good talking point for Bitcoiners about being anti-CBDC, I think the real signal here is the fact that more people are waking up to the dangers of a CBDC. For a lot of years as Bitcoiners, we're like, oh, there's never going to be a CBDC, nothing to worry about. And now that conversation is going out and playing out on Main Street, and average everyday people, not, whatever they call us, psychopath supercoders or whatever, illiterate Bitcoiners out here. We're not the only ones talking about CBDCs and the dangers of CBDCs, but let's not forget that we basically already live in a CBDC system, guys. Like, all our money's already digital. I know one of the big FUD lines that I hear from normies and people on the right too, like Christian conservatives that are like, oh, Bitcoin's the number of the beast. And it's like, guys, we basically already have a number of the beast. It's your social security number. Like, our money's already digital. This is not a new quote unquote digital number of the beast being thrusted on us. This is us escaping the fiat system that's already been thrust on us. And so I just love that these conversations about the dangers of CBDCs are happening, but I just want to like remind most people out there that aren't well versed in the technicals. It's like we already live in a digital money world. We already live in a digital dollar world, and all the things that we talk about that a CBDC can do, they can already do with the traditional financial system. And this is why we're Bitcoiners, is because there's a better system, a system that a small cabal of people can't control. And of course, that's why we love Bitcoin and we're all Bitcoiners. And we understand that the only way out of the system is by joining a better system that pushes prosperity, that pushes freedom. And again, we say it all the time. It's Bitcoin or slavery. It is a CBDC totalitarian controlled money, or a money that no one controls. And I know my choice. I know my bias. And I'm just glad that these conversations are happening on mainstream in the halls of Congress. And this signal is getting out there and at the very least getting people to question what's going on.
100%. I think you hit the nail on the head, Opti. 100%, bro. And I think that's what's happening. I think it's happening in real time. But I think, guys, don't lose your eye on don't take your eye off the ball. Stay focused and understand that we're in it for the long haul, and this is really the battle of our time. This is the world war of our time. And hopefully, the separation of money and state is not kinetic. It's not, it's a peace. This is why we call it the peaceful revolution. So it's really all about waking up your neighbors, waking up the people, to the left of you, to the right of you, and bringing people together and making them understand that this is not a left versus right thing. This is not a Democrat versus Republican. This is not a liberal versus conservative talking point. Bitcoin benefits everyone equally, right? And I think it's really important to emphasize that. And I think if enough people wake up to this, it will be a peaceful transition, and by the way, when I talk about a non-peaceful transition, I'm not talking about the people. I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about tyrannical governments trying to retain the privilege and the power of controlling money, right? That's what I'm talking about. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to the news, I do want to give a shout out to our limited edition merch, which just dropped. You guys check it out. Again, guys, this really, really helps with the Simply Bitcoin channel, helps us stay independent. We teamed up with a Bitcoin artist. His name is Asanoa, and we've come up some sick ass merch, man. So check out this one, Peaceful Revolution, the Simply Bitcoin merch. There's a Bitcoin pill with some Japanese characters. There's a gold Bitcoin snapback, the gold Bitcoin dad hat. We got some merch for the ladies as well. I know that's been requested. Looking at you, Elaine. And so guys, this really, really helps support the show. So you guys could go check it out on simplybitcoin.com. You guys could find the latest merch there. You could also scan the QR code. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, no more delay. Let's jump straight into news. We have a lot to talk about. Let's check it out. Here we go.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a Passport by Foundation Devices hardware wallet. For you to properly secure your Bitcoin, we highly, highly recommend getting yourself a cold storage device, a hardware wallet, and of course, we recommend our sponsor, Passport by Foundation Devices. It's completely open source. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's incredibly easy to use. I use it as one of my daily drivers in terms of my wallets. Highly, highly recommend it. Anyways, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, quick ETF update. Just because, man, these institutions, these companies, these billionaires, they're just stacking all the corn. That's what they're doing right now. So quick update. MicroStrategy currently holds 205,000 Bitcoin. Let's see. Grayscale BlackRock has officially passed Michael Saylor's Bitcoin stack, MicroStrategy's stack. Currently, BlackRock holds 215,000 Bitcoin compared to MicroStrategy's 205,000. Now, of course, it is not a fair comparison. MicroStrategy is, it's a public company. It's a software company that's transitioned to this like kind of Bitcoin company hybrid. And of course, BlackRock is an asset manager. But when we were joking on Monday, it seemed like Michael Saylor had this last gasp where, he raised some money. It seems like he, found the cheat code to the fiat system, and he was able to, get that little bump to stay ahead of the pack for a couple days longer. So interesting, though. Look, guys, there's not enough Bitcoin to go around. That's the blunt truth. Yesterday, we had the largest inflow days in history. Here's Alistar Malin, better said. First $1 billion net inflow day for the Bitcoin ETFs. GBTC selling drops suddenly again. Indicator another fire seller is now finished. Record BlackRock ETF inflows of $849 million. So you want to know why the price is rising so quickly, why it's happening right now. You want to know why we've made an all-time high before the halvings. Never happened before in Bitcoin's history. It's because the institutional money is here. I highly recommend the Simply Bitcoin IRL episode that I did with Fred Krueger. He was dropping some hot fire. Saw that a lot of people enjoyed it, so really recommend that episode. And tonight we have the legendary James Lavish coming on at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're going to be asking him more questions about the ETF. So we have a whole lot of content for you guys today. Anyways, the moment that you guys all have been waiting for, which is here is, Saylor saying what I think all of us know innately, but this is a blunt truth. It's a blunt reality, right? Whoever gets the most Bitcoin wins. There is no other end game. I'm going to say that again. Whoever gets the most Bitcoin wins. There is no other end game. So what we have been advocating for, not only advocating for, but, putting our money where our mouth is. Opti and I have been stacking.
Putting our lives where our mouth
our
is.
lives, right? Because we're building a Bitcoin business. But, I've been putting, not so much anymore, but in the first couple of years, now I got a family and stuff, I got people to pay and, it's a little bit different. But in the early days, I was putting, 80 to 90% of my income into Bitcoin. In 2016, 2017, 2018, all as much as I could, because I knew this, there's 21 million Bitcoin, right? There's only ever 21 million Bitcoin. Now, yeah, Bryson is asking if he could chirp in. Yeah, in a second. And then, so what Michael Saylor is saying is absolutely true. The faster you come to that reality, the faster you humble yourself and you realize, okay, maybe you weren't able to get it at $6. Maybe you weren't able to get it at $10,000. Maybe you weren't able to get it at $30,000, but you still have time to get it at 72,000. And when this thing's at $1 million, you're gonna be like, bro, remember when I was at 72? You're gonna have the same feeling, right? We've been here before. Anyways, Bryson, what are your thoughts, man?
I wanted to kind of chip into what you were saying about like putting 70, 80, 90% of your income in 2016, 2017 into Bitcoin. Like, if able, now's the best time to overextend yourself into Bitcoin. So like, like where I'm living, I'm like everything short of gas money and lunch money is in Bitcoin, because I have like little to no living expenses, and I have a safety net, right? I live with my parents, right? So I have nothing to lose and everything to gain, right? And so at the beginning of a bull market, there's no other viable strategy than investing as much as possible into the scarcest asset man is known. And the other point, when we're talking about the ETFs, is like, if they keep eating up as much Bitcoin as they are, like, they're going to control 10-ish% of the total supply of Bitcoin by the next halving in 2028. And if that doesn't wake people up to perhaps having an allocation to this asset class, I don't know what will.
Amen to that. I mean, that's why we love our Zoomers, and this is why we have 2 Zoomers at Simply Bitcoin.
Three.
Because they're absolutely savage in a good way. So, hey, man, this is dropping the hot fire, man. How old are you? I mean, give us a rough estimation. Maybe you don't want to dox yourself, Bryson.
He can't even drink yet legally.
I cannot drink. I don't want to make you guys feel too old.
Oh, dude, Bryce is gonna be rich as fuck, dude. Okay. Anyways, start stacking at 18. Holy shit, I wish I knew about Bitcoin at 18. Me and Opti were still doing dumbass shit. Okay. Anyways,
I still do.
Okay, the moment you guys have all been waiting for. I'm so worried when this thing hits 150K. Opti's gonna disappear. Opti, pull up the meme, please. Pull up the meme so we can show everyone.
All right, play this video.
Okay, we'll play this video. Okay, this is a moment that you guys all have been waiting for. Michael Saylor dropping hot fire on national TV, calling the dollar for what it is, an absolute scam, saying you have to accumulate Bitcoin. It's the name of the game. Here we go.
Well, despite declines for Bitcoin today, MicroStrategy shares, well, they're higher. TD Cowen raising its price target on the stock to $1,560. That's $1,560 after MicroStrategy increased its Bitcoin holdings by another 12,000 Bitcoin. The total holdings about 205,000 now. Joining me now, MicroStrategy Executive Chairman Michael Saylor. Michael, it's good to see you. It's been a little while.
Thanks for having me, Julie.
So I want to start. I know that you're bullish on Bitcoin. I think everyone knows by now that you see a long-term store of value in Bitcoin. And you have said that you see it as digital property as opposed to thinking of it as a digital currency. So if you could help me understand, as you add more to the company's balance sheet, what the sort of end game is for those holdings on MicroStrategy's balance sheet.
Yeah, well, we think Bitcoin is the highest form of property. It's the apex property in the world, and it's the best investment asset. So the end game is to acquire more Bitcoin. Whoever gets the most Bitcoin wins.
Well,
there is no other end game.
But Michael, I guess what I'm trying to understand is, so if I think of it as digital property, and I think of analogies, right? I think of a real estate company that buys property and holds on to other kinds of property. They may not be the apex, but whatever kinds of property. I think of an asset manager that buys all kinds of different assets. Eventually, they sell those assets in order to make profits. But I don't think that is your end game, right? You're not planning to sell the Bitcoin at any point. So kind of what is the purpose of it over time?
Well, let's keep in mind the fundamental principle. What's the use case of Bitcoin? It's capital preservation. So if you have $1 billion and you live in South America, or you live in Asia, or you live in Africa, and you want the capital to last for 100 years, you're not going to want to buy $1 billion company or $1 billion building or $1 billion of land in any place in Africa. You're going to have to find some other form of property that you can hold for a long period of time. Let's take New York City. Developers of New York City in 1776 didn't have an end game. They've been raising capital to invest in New York City real estate at the all-time high for 300 years. If you went and talked to them today and you said, what's your end game? They would say, well, we're going to keep investing in New York City. If you've ever talked to a person that owned an apartment in New York City, no one aspires to hold the apartment for a few years, sell the apartment, and move out of New York City. They put it in their will, they give it to their children, and if you ask them why, they say there's no better place on earth to live than New York. There is no place up from there. So New York City is the end game for people that want to live in the greatest city in North America. Bitcoin is the end game for anybody that wants to own the greatest property in the 21st century.
Well, I guess that is the case, but is there a price at which you would consider selling some of the Bitcoin, pulling out? So I mean, because you can do something with New York City. You can live in New York City. You can have a business in New York City. What do you do with the Bitcoin besides it just gather value?
Well, the real estate developers in New York City, they're not buying the real estate because they want to live in it. They're buying the real estate because they expect
because they want to sell it eventually, Michael. I mean, let's be honest. Most of the people who are, yes, sure, some people pass it on to their children, but like most of the people who are buying assets at some point want to sell the assets at a profit. So let
me say it a different way.
Okay.
People that use fiat currency as a store of value, there's a name for them. We call them poor. Okay. Anybody that's rich in the world, they own property. They own large swathes of land. The royal family of England, it didn't sell all of its property in central London in order to buy currency or paper money. Nor did the royal family of Japan. Nor did the royal family in the Middle East. In fact, they want to own the property forever. I want you to imagine Bitcoin it's a city in cyberspace that's 276 blocks wide, 276 blocks high, 276 blocks deep, about 21 million blocks. Now imagine all 8 billion people in the world want to live there one day. They want to put their capital there. There's $900 trillion of wealth in the world. As people migrate from every other form of property and assets into cyberspace, you're going to see the Bitcoin network go from $1 trillion network to a 10x that to 100x that. And there really is nowhere else to go. It is the apex property of the human race.
I mean, bro, like, if that is not a drop mic moment, like, it's just vindication. Like, it's vindication. Like, this is like, and again, like, she was getting kind of aggressive, in my opinion. Like, I think she was like, oh, I gotcha. And then he was just like, no. And then, when he dropped that pour bomb, that was absolutely hilarious. But yeah, the two pieces of signal there, and that absolute pure signal coming out of Michael Saylor is the name of the game is accumulate as much Bitcoin as humanly possible. Do whatever it takes, number one. And number two, of course, color within the lines. And then number two is, look, if you want to denominate, if you want to sell back to fiat for whatever reason, have fun staying poor. That was the signal. She couldn't, her face when she did that was, absolutely priceless. So Michael Saylor just coming in hot, dropping bombs, man. That's what I gotta say about that. Anyways, what's your take? We'll start with the young Zoomer first, then we'll move on to Opti.
This is why I know who Michael Giga Chad Saylor is and not who that news anchor is. Just drop the mic like that. But it's a tough take, because I don't know what that news anchor was trying to articulate and say there, because anyone with more than 2 brain cells, even if we take Bitcoin out of the picture, it's make the real estate analogies. If you're a family and you own 10 apartment buildings, you're never going to sell those buildings. You're going to pass those on in your trust and ensure that they're never sold for fiat currency, because those apartment buildings are going to take care of your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, right? As far as your family's lineage goes. And so you'd say, okay, well, if Bitcoin is the best asset, which it is, why would it not be the same thing? And so I don't know if she was fishing for an answer or if she truly is just that ignorant, but it is a little bit blood boiling to listen to that interview.
Yeah, 100%. I 100% agree with that statement, man. It's I just, it's ignorance, hubris, kind of elitism. I got a little bit of a sense of that. Anyways, Opti, what's your take, man?
Yeah, so first and foremost, Saylor just absolutely slaying on the corporate press. Just love it. Dropping all kinds of memes there. That's going to be one of those clips that we probably play all year long. Someone said in the chat, like, this woman's going to have a moment in the future where, like, wow, I was trying to talk bad about Bitcoin on live television. It caught in 4K.
Because they expect
because they want to sell it eventually,
desirable.
Michael. Let's be honest. Most of the people who are, yes, sure, some people pass it on to their children, but like most of the people who are buying assets at some point want to sell the assets at a profit. So let me say it a different way. Okay.
People that use fiat currency as a store of value, there's a name for them. We call them poor.
Such a good meme. Anyways, I want to hit on a few memes before I touch on that meme that you just played. The first one, Apex Property. I think that's the first time I've heard Saylor say that. I love the idea. I love the idea of Bitcoin as the apex predator of money. I think there's even an article written. I forget who wrote it, but it's pretty old by now. I highly recommend you guys go read that one. And I don't know if you caught it, Nico, but Saylor was channeling his inner Max Kaiser there. Max Kaiser is known for saying the classic phrasing of he who owns the Bitcoin makes the rules. And Saylor's like, yo, like the end game is owning as much Bitcoin as possible. Like the game is getting the most amount of Bitcoin. And this is something I've been saying on the show for a while, as the game being played right now, guys, for you guys that are my age, we're millennials, is you're playing Hungry Hippo with sats. The game is accumulation. You want to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. I have so many friends that hit me up. It's like, oh, the Bitcoin price is going up. Is it going to dip again? And I'm always saying the same thing. The name of the game is just accumulating as much Bitcoin as possible, holding that for as long as possible. And then her trying to put him in a corner of like, when do you sell? Like, you don't sell your winners for your losers. And we all know that fiat is the loser here. Fiat is getting demonetized. It's getting debased. It's losing purchasing power. It's on the decline. Any fiat in the world. And we all have Bitcoin. Like, we have this opportunity of seeing a magnificent bull run, and you're not going to sell your Bitcoin for more fiat dollars. Like, all of us Bitcoiners eventually want to get to a point where we understand, like, the rocket ship is leaving the stable right now, and you don't want to sell your Bitcoin for cheap. Again, if I have to remind you of some classic literature in Bitcoin, go read Everyone's a Scammer. You do not want to sell your Bitcoin for some cheap products right now, or for fiat, for literally paper IOUs. But I do think there will be a time when that all of us Bitcoiners imagine, where we're a part of this Bitcoin circular economy, where you trade your Bitcoin for other goods with other Bitcoiners. Of course, I don't know necessarily if Saylor fully is on that board, or if he's literally going to be like, he said a few times, I'm just going to hold my Bitcoin forever and die with it, you know, like a pharaoh with all his gold and all that stuff. So, hey, different strokes for different folks, but you don't sell your Bitcoin for fiat. Like, yes, I know if you're all in on Bitcoin, you do have to transact with the fiat dollars so that you can live, but you want to hold as much Bitcoin as possible because the number is going to go up. And then, all right, on that quote, like, I absolutely love that quote. It really is, I think, going to become a great meme. It's pretty much an update of the have fun staying poor meme. But what Saylor's really saying there, it goes back to the old memes of his of, if you are saving in fiat dollars, you are holding melting ice cubes. And I know it sounds pretty bad that how Saylor said it in here, you know, like, let me rephrase this another way. If you save in dollars, we have a name for them. We call them poor. But what he's actually saying is what we say all the time. If you understand what's going on, and all the rich and wealthy people in the world understand this very fact, this truth, that you can't save in dollars, you need to hold assets. But the average person out there, you know, person that isn't financially literate, they're holding dollars and they don't understand that they are getting poorer. So it may sound bad, but what he's saying is truth. If you save in dollars, you are poor. Whether that means you have a lot of dollars or not, but in a certain amount of time, dollars do not store value through time and space. It is known to lose literally at minimum 2% of purchasing power a year. So if you are saving in dollars and you're new to the Bitcoin game, and you're maybe feeling like Saylor's being an asshole on television, what he's basically saying is you can't save in dollars. You need to find something that goes up in purchasing power, whether that is assets or what we like, it's Bitcoin. So you need to save in something that is not losing value. And if you save in dollars, you are getting poorer. So, man, what a classic clip. Saylor just putting on master classes out there. You can tell, you know, Nico's joking about him having the beard and him wearing the Bitcoin
It's not
merch.
a joke. I'm
not saying it's a meme. I'm just saying you can tell that the, like, I don't give AF energy is starting to come out more. And he's like, look, I'm right. He's like, who's this anchor lady telling me how to store my value? He's like, I'm a billionaire and my profits and purchasing power and my net worth is going up. And she's trying to tell me to sell my Bitcoin for what, dollars? He's like, yo, this is incredible.
100%. I mean, like, dude, like, it's you know, it's vindication. I can't say that enough. Like, a Saylor is being vindicated. Anyways, Opti, we did have two super chats. So first one from Rational Kitty. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Thank you for being my best lunch buddies. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And Opti, we had another one. Just found it right here by Vake. Super chat for $10. Appreciate it, Vake. People who don't watch Simply Bitcoin, we have a name for them. We call them dumb. man, I appreciate the love.
Love you, Big.
We're currently sitting at 1,500 live viewers on YouTube and X, formerly known as Twitter, and about 50 or 60 on Rumble. So shout out to everybody who is watching, and make sure to smash that like button if you are enjoying the content. Anyways, before we move on to the culture segment, I do want to go back to the topic of central bank digital currencies. We're all celebrating Bitcoin has made all-time highs, 73,600. Where's Satoshi the Bitcoin chicken, by the way? Because Bitcoin did make an all-time high earlier. I think it was last night, but $73,600. So this thing continues to go up. It's obviously the ETF inflows, the institutional interest. But anyways, here's Walker America. He said ECB plans to roll out digital euro CBDC starting in 2025. They claim it'll be private, but it will not be, given Lagarde already wants to throw you in jail for €1,000 anonymous cash payment. Study Bitcoin and opt out of this totalitarian surveillance token, right? And here it is. This is from their own pitch deck, right? Literally. I'm gonna copy this and put it in the chat so you guys could don't trust verify and see the press release yourself. But it says staying ahead of the curve, preparing our currency for the future. I'm going to translate that. What they really mean is staying ahead of the curve, preparing our currency to not be, obsolete, basically, or trying to not be obsolete. This is like the horse and buggy people trying to stay relevant. This is like, before they had light bulbs, they had, the gas. And that's how people lit their homes, right? It's the same thing, man. It's changing times. The only difference, ladies and gentlemen, is you have to understand that all these innovations with the internet and the car and airplane and all these things that have dramatically changed the human experience in life, right? For the better, I might add. They didn't unsettle this system that has been in place literally since the Renaissance, right? This system of central banking. And then really since the start of the kind of nation state era, the early nation state era, the kind of the early Napoleonic Wars and whatnot, that system hasn't really changed. It hasn't changed, right? In early US history, they resisted the introduction of a central bank for a very long time. Like, take a look at Andrew Jackson, right? Fighting it. The founding fathers have some of the most famous quotes about the dangers of paper money. But finally, the U.S. was captured. It did capitulate in 1913, which coincidentally, not a coincidence, was also the same date that the federal income tax was established. And then the rest is history, right? And then Ron Paul's quote comes to mind, right? It's not a coincidence that the bloodiest century in human history is also the century of central banking, right? So the central bankers and the political class are literally being made obsolete. Their system is being made obsolete. But remember, unlike other kind of private sector innovations like Barnes and Nobles and Amazon, you're dealing with the men with guns. You're dealing with government. You're dealing with the source of power of government. So it's a totally, totally different ball game, right? And they're going to use that power in order to maintain that privilege, right? The power of censorship, which they're failing at, which, by the way, the whole TikTok bill I don't know if we'll have time to get to that today. But they're using this power in order to hold on to this privilege, right? So the question that I have for you guys, and it requires a little bit of I don't want to say fighting because that could be misconstrued, but it requires a little bit of agency, it requires a little bit of action, it requires for you to get active. But the awesome part about this is that when we say that, all we mean is literally buy Bitcoin, earn Bitcoin, mine Bitcoin, and take that Bitcoin into cold storage, and you're part of the revolution. That's it. That's all that's required. It's just about opting out entirely. It's about just saying no. It's just I don't want to participate. And the more people do that, the more tyrannical and desperate they'll become. By doing that, they'll expose themselves more and more to the point where they don't have a good answer as to why money has to lose purchasing power to exist. They don't have a real justification, you know, kind of alluding back to the Cynthia Lummis video earlier on in the show. They don't have a real justification as to why a central bank digital currency should be introduced in the US. And the fact that it's already kind of in the window of discourse that this CBDC will be used for totalitarian control, obviously that's what they're going to look. If you take a look at history, I don't think you could find an example ever of, you know, a government or a nation state not using the powers that people or, you know, their constituents or their citizens or whatever you want to call it bestowed on them to them. And they haven't used that power against them. Right. So like trusting a government with the CBDC, like even in the US, and this will be my last bit, even in the US with the First Amendment protections, okay? First Amendment protections. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. I'm paraphrasing, but you guys get the point. The FBI could not help themselves. This was revealed during the Twitter files, but to censor certain people on behalf of the government. And now what you are trying to convince me of, right? Just as Janet Yellen, you know, was like, oh, I regret saying inflation isn't transitory. What do you think they're going to tell you with the CBDCs? Well, yeah, I mean, we just didn't know. Like, I mean, bro, like, you know, common sense here. But if they're not okay with you transacting information freely, if they're not okay with you consuming certain types of information, and that is completely against the Constitution, what makes you think they're going to be okay with you transacting freely? What makes you think they're going to be okay with you getting to choose what money you want to use or what money you want to save in? And look, this affects, and I love the boomer Bitcoiners. I love the Gen X Bitcoiners, but it's millennials and Zoomers right now. Our generations got the blunt end of the stick. The 2008 financial crisis. If it wasn't for Bitcoin, I mean, look, if you're not on a Bitcoin standard and you're a millennial or Gen Zer and you're not in the top 1%, the 1%, good luck affording a home, you know, in the top American cities, even with a very well-paying job. Like you're literally probably paycheck to paycheck. So yeah, man, this is serious stuff. This is Bitcoiner slavery. Wake the F up. In Europe, they're already showing you what they want to do. They're literally telling you, we don't care what you guys think. We're going to shove this down your throats anyways. You know, at least in the US, they're having a little bit more trouble. There's a little bit more, exactly. Someone in the chat, quote, I regret that the CBDC has been tracking you, Janet Yellen in 2034. Exactly. Like it's the same thing. It's like, oh, oops, we messed up. No consequences for us. Just, I'm sorry. Like, no, man, look, enough is enough. Forgive me if I just don't believe what the talking heads on TV have to say at this point. I'm sorry. They've betrayed that trust way, way, way too much. Anyways, first pass it on to Bryson and then Opti.
Well, I mean, living on a fiat standard is like living on a perpetual treadmill. You're always trying to keep up, right? And you're just watching that goal get further and further away. And so it doesn't make sense. And well, you talk about CBDCs and like Florida passing anti-CBDC regulation, which I think is great and a step in the right direction. But you look at how we've seen the, I guess, watering down of federalism in America specifically, right? It was founded as the United States of America, right? And initially the government failed because it was too weak, right? There was no national currency, and so it was revamped. And we all poured under one banner, right? We came together as the states, but federalism is the idea that you can have, separate rules and laws from state to state. And with, fiat, we've kind of seen that, disappear because, if a state does not capitulate, I like that word you use, Nico, to what the government wants, they're not going to fund them, right? And so you see like all these, like the speed limits, for example, right? During the gas crisis in the 70s, right? It's like, well, some states didn't capitulate to federal government's speed limits, and so they just cut funding, and eventually they had to give in because they needed that money. And so fiat has truly diminished, right? Federalism, which I think is a phenomenal foundational belief in necessity for this country. And so, show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcome, right? Fiat's ruining everything, and it's ruining the currency as well.
Dude, 100%. Who is this kid?
I'm telling you, bro, the Zoomers are gonna take over the world, bro. Literally. Anyways, man. Opti, what's your take on all this, brother?
Yeah, I mean, look, you guys know I've tried to have the inside track on what's going on at the ECB, and we know what they've been trying to do for a long time, but I think it's just going to fall flat. Again, we say the same thing all the time, like governments are incompetent. They cannot compete with the free market, and I think it's a little too late. A little too little too late. I mean, the roadmap is what? The end of 2025 or something like that? Like, by then, Bitcoin's going to be in the six figures. A conservative bet that Bitcoin's going to be in the six figures by the time they even roll out a CBDC. So it's going to be very interesting to see them try to compete on the free market. Obviously, they will never actually compete on the free market. They will try to force people's behaviors. What's the latest meme from the week? Like, we will force... Yeah, we'll force behaviors. Like, they're going to try to force you into the CBDC system, basically make it impossible to live without a CBDC system. And so, I mean, obviously, we know this is coming. They've been talking about this for a long time. Again, we have a real life example of what happens when the government tries to force a CBDC, aka a la Nigeria. And I think people inherently have this like survival mechanism where they don't understand exactly the full technicalities of what's going on, but they just don't trust the government to offer us a better payment system or a more connected, more unifying. I looked at the slide deck. Maybe we can go into it tomorrow. And it was saying something like, no one's going to be left behind. Like, everyone's going to be included into this new CBDC system. We're going to connect the US or the EU, sorry. And it's just like, man, you can tell that and very convenient. You can tell what their framing is convenience and connectivity and better digital payments. And it's like, look, we already got that. It's Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a global money. You don't have to ask permission. You don't need their permission to use it. All you need to do is take the first step and get off zero.
100%. Bars to that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to the culture, I just want to leave it with a parting message from our dear Treasury Secretary.
In 2021, you did say that inflation was transitory. Do you regret saying that now?
I regret saying it was transitory. It has come down, but I think transitory means a few weeks or months to most people.
Oh my God, Bitcoin or slavery. All right, guys, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor. And of course, I'm talking about the one, the only Kaboom, the most trusted place to buy, sell, and host mining equipment. This is where I personally buy my Bitcoin mining ASICs. Guys, what are you waiting for? Visit Kaboom Racks today. And the way that you do that is scanning the QR code on your screen. It will take you directly to their Telegram marketplace where you can connect with a member of their sales team. And they make purchasing products easy and transparent. Also, if you want to sell your Bitcoin mining ASICs, you can access their vast network of domestic and international customers when you sell your mining equipment with them. Guys, I can't recommend Kaboom Racks enough. If you guys are just looking to get into mining, if you guys are experienced miners, check out Kaboom Racks today. All right, everybody, let's get to the culture. Let's talk some Zoomer Bitcoin, Zoomer Bitcoin, Bitcoin Zoomer.
The Daily Culture.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I also want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Bitcoin Evangelism, planting seeds for the decentralized revolution. We have 10 million people to orange pill. Bitcoin Evangelism by our buddy Brian DeMint is an absolute beast of a resource for orange pilling no coiners and altcoiners alike. This is a book for Bitcoiners who know Bitcoin but have a hard time explaining it to their friends. It's a book for Bitcoiners who are trying to explain Bitcoin only to altcoiners. It's available on Amazon right now if you scan the QR code right there, or check the link in the video description. All right, I am so excited for this.
Wait, before we do this, this is what Nico keeps referencing.
Yes.
But what Nico can't tell is I have an internet connection here, so I will still be plugged into the world, and this is going to happen soon enough.
Opti will disappear as soon as Bitcoin hits like 150K, and he's going to be buying gold chains and leopards.
No, I got one. I'm good. All right, let's talk some Bitcoin Zoomer talk. Let's talk. It's in my culture.
Listen, Opti, you're not allowed to just drop off the face of the world, right? Because the Bitcoiner mentality is you can't just.
This doesn't mean I'm dropping off. It just means I'm living my best life. Don't you guys? Hold on.
You always gotta make more, you know.
Don't you want me to live my best life, man? Y'all are no fun here. Okay. Anyways, Bryson,
should we just leave it for the rest of the?
No. Let's talk with Bryson. Let's talk with Bryson. All right. We're having some fun today, but Bryson, you are a Bitcoin Zoomer, as you can tell. No, I don't like this here. You can tell we have an awesome Zoomer on the team now. We love him. He's, as you can tell from today's show, very well informed. I think he's one of those bright lights out there. But let's start with your Bitcoin origin story, because you've told me this before, and then you literally are at college right now yelling about Bitcoin Signal, and I see you behind the scenes, like people are like asking you questions and stuff. So let's start with your Bitcoin origin story, and then we'll talk about like your finger on the pulse of what the Zoomers think of Bitcoin.
Yeah, so I mean, it all started about a year and a half ago. Shout out to the girlfriend's dad again, right? He is the one who introduced it to me, and I kind of thought he was, a little crazy and unhinged, a few screws loose, which I'm still not convinced he doesn't have a few screws loose, but I think he's just right about Bitcoin at least. I didn't listen to him for a while, crashed down to 16, kind of made fun of him for a little bit. And then I was talking to some friends at school, genuinely asking them, well, hey, how are we going to afford to live when we get out of college? And I started, thinking, well, maybe he's onto something here. And I jumped straight into, he hit me up with like 50 different resources, was blowing up my phone when I was in class, hitting me with all these links, all of these good Twitter accounts, posted a lot of good content, YouTube channels all over the place, recommended a bunch of books. And I just fell into the rabbit hole. And being digitally naive, as you guys have stated, it was extremely quick and extremely easy for me to see that, hey, this is a much better system than the fiat hellhole we're living in, right? It's a race to the bottom. And it truly gives me something, positive to look forward to in my day, right? I wake up in the morning, I have so much more energy being on the orange shirt. I pop open my phone, see the price, I'm like, yay or nay, hop on Twitter, see what news is going on. Go for the low-hanging fruit, make fun of a bunch of senators and politicians trying to regulate mining or whatever, and it's just a great start to my day. It truly gives me hope that things are going to get better.
Love it. Someone said girlfriend's dad sounds like the GOAT. Can you tell the audience, I think you told us in the private chat, what he told you and the meme that you told me about orange pilling the boyfriend?
He had a orange pill his daughter's boyfriend, so she steals my bag and not his.
What a go. Okay, all right, let's move the conversation a little bit. You literally are in college campus right now. You're in the library or one of the what do you call it, study rooms or whatever. What is your general take on Zoomers and their outlook on Bitcoin? Do you have these conversations with your friends? I know you said you've orange pilled a few friends. Like, are you one of those batshit crazy kids to the average person? Like, explain to us old guys here, the old heads in the room, what the Zoomers think about Bitcoin on your college campus.
Well, there's a lot of lingo used in the community, of course, right? Like HFSP, right? Have fun staying poor, get off zero, right? NGU. And so, like, when I'm trying to talk to someone, I have to kind of remind myself that they have no idea what any of this terminology means. And so yeah, a lot of people think you're pretty crazy just because they don't know the language you're speaking, right? You could almost attribute it to being a different language. And so it's very hard to put myself into someone's shoes who doesn't know anything about it and say, hey, how's the best way to orange pill them? And what pain points are actually going to resonate and get through to people? Right? I mean, that's the art of teaching, right? Being able to teach someone is saying, well, where are they coming from? And you have multiple people coming from different backgrounds. I've talked to a few people in my generation about Bitcoin. I've orange pilled, I think, 3 people I've met at college so far, which is pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that number if we're only trying for a couple of months. But there's there's a strong sense of status quo and keeping things the same. It's like when you talk about the college education, there's a lot of incompetent people coming here. I don't want to dox the college I go to, but it's like with they're for-profit institutions, right? And the slogan basically was, if you have a pulse, if you breathe, we'd be glad to take your money for admission. And I don't think that's a good use of my time to say, well, hey, if I complete this degree, I know someone was asking what I'm studying. I'm studying computer science and business. But even these two degrees have been completely watered down. And so like getting the piece of paper isn't as prominent or necessary as it once used to be. But it's truly difficult to get through because, I mean, a lot of college students don't really have any money. Usually their balance starts with a negative in front of it, right? A lot of people are in debt. And so, even if they, this is kind of the argument of, like if you've read the book Fiat Food or something, if you can acknowledge that, hey, a lot of this food, all this pre-processed food we're eating is bad for you. Well, I mean, what's an alternative? If you're like middle, like, so let's say you make the median income in America, making $60,000 or so. I'm not entirely sure what it is exactly. And you know that a lot of these foods you're eating at the grocery store are bad for you, but you can't afford to buy healthier foods. What are you going to do? Right? Are you just going to live and settle and say, hey, I've got to eat these pre-processed foods with high fructose corn syrup, vegetable oils, and say, well, I need some food, right? Some food is better than no food, right? And so that's kind of where a lot of people in my generation take it the wrong way and say, oh, he's being a pessimist about this because he's telling me that I need to invest in this, but I don't have any money. All of my money is in college. I'm in debt, right? So when exactly am I going to have time to buy this, right? And they're saying, oh, well, if it truly does what people think and it goes to $1 million a coin by the end of this year or next year, right? Samson Mao, the bull turd next to Max Kaiser, how are they going to afford it, right? They're going to have an overwhelming sense of missing out, right? And that's a big concern with me talking about it is, right, I try not to dox myself and tell people how much I have, although I can't have much. I'm a freaking Zoomer, right? I'm 19-year-old Zoomer in college, right? So, but it's like, I kind of worry about talking to people about it in mass quantities because, the fear of a bad attack is truly something that could happen, right? Of saying, or so, if I don't custody it with the bank and there's no way the government could, well, regain control of my stash if someone to threaten me with a bat and say, hey, give me your cord or goodbye to you. It's tough. It's tough to say when is this a conversation worth having with someone. So usually you start with, hey, the economy's bad, things are too expensive, and you talk about, well, why is the world the way it is, and then you can kind of see subtle hints into Bitcoin, and if they're receptive and you think it takes, then you can move into it. But as far as actually orange pilling the Zoomers, it's tough to do something like that on YouTube or Twitter because like Twitter is, I don't want to make the comparison to Facebook, but when you think of a Facebook user, you think of a mom or a boomer talking about like his whatever it is, C5 Corvette. And Instagram and TikTok, we'll see what happens with TikTok after the regulation or after Congress voted on that today. It is a target-rich environment for Zoomers, and so I think that's where we should be focusing a bit more attention on orange pilling them and saying, hey, listen, this is something positive to look at and say you have a better chance of having a good life if you adopt Bitcoin as a savings strategy.
Love it. Okay, one good question, and then I have one more question for you. I don't know the name here, but it goes, how big is unit bias preventing Zoomers from buying Bitcoin and causing them to turn shitcoiners?
Large. One of my friends I orange pilled, she was talking to someone who bought Bitcoin and he was like, I'm going to buy some Doge just for the fun of it. And that's going to entice a lot of people. Being in computer science, you'd think a lot of the people I spend time with would be orange pilled or very easy to be orange pilled because we code for a living. We sit in front of a screen from 9 to 5 and looking at lines of code, debugging a semicolon. But it's actually not that easy. I've not ran into a CS major who's actually orange pilled, which is kind of funny. But I've run into a few shitcoiners, which is very unfortunate. And I'm not sure about the best way of going about getting young people off of shitcoins. I mean, I think one of the worst things for society is we've removed the nuclear family from the West, especially, and I think this is a move in the right direction to kind of self-correct and course correct, perhaps is a better phrase, back to a nuclear family structure of saying, hey, we have the money to actually have a family, and it really, I can't attest for what's going on in other Zoomers' minds, but that's what I've seen.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Last question for you, Bryson, especially considering you are probably have a few Zoomers around you currently. I saw you behind the scenes talking to people. So what is your TLDR elevator pitch for a Zoomer out there that may be on the fence in regards to Bitcoin?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'd have to think about that for a moment. Like I said, it truly depends on the pain points experienced by that person, right? Like a little off topic here, but you sit here and you say, okay, I live in suburbia, Arizona, and it's a pretty good life, right? It's a very good life relative to the rest of the world. And so when you sit here and you say, hey, you need Bitcoin because gas goes up $1, that's not going to be a good pain point to hit, because, well, if gas costs $15 and you're living in a nice house in suburbia, is it inconvenient? Do you like it? Perhaps not, right? But it's not the difference between eating and commuting to work or getting your kids to school. And so where I live, right, and especially at college, is kids don't really think about that. And so it's hard to pinpoint one flashing message that resonates. With my more conservative friends, I usually go to the family conversation. With women, I usually say, hey, food, right, nurturing, being able to have financial freedom, right? But it's tough. I don't think there's one answer. So I don't really want to answer that, because I don't think there is one answer, right? It's not a one size fits all question.
No, I love it. I mean, I've been saying for a while, I stole it from How to Win Friends and Influences or How to Influence. You guys know the book. And it says something on the lines of bait the hook for the fish you're trying to catch. And it's something I tell everyone here all the time, and anyone that'll listen. It's like, guys, I know we all have like an epic Bitcoin rant, but you got to tailor the message to someone, find their pain points, see what they are interested in, what they're focused on, and then you plug Bitcoin on top of it. So this is how you orange pill the world. But before I move on, I do want to hit on the super chat. Shouts out Thomas Hara. Forgive me. And he goes, thank you, Bryson. Stay humble. He's a fellow Gen Zer out there. And then Bryson, someone wants to, another one. Shouts out to you guys, dude. BTC Believer goes, keep up the signal, guys. Really appreciate the super chat. Someone said, Bryson, what is your LN at? So we'll have to, do you have an LN at or an address? They want to send you some sats, dude.
I do not have one right now. All
right. Okay. We'll get them up. We'll get them up and running with an Ellen address soon. And we'll drop that signal for you guys. So, man, really appreciate all you guys today. Means a lot. Bryson, you guys can catch him. Actually, what's the last message you want to leave with the audience out there, Bryson?
Seriously, you're going to throw me on the spotlight again. I will attest. Nico was saying the beard grows in better when you're in a bull market. I can attest to that. I've got a little scruff going on here. It's a little light colored, so you can't see it well. But hey, being in the bull market is helping. So I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you, Opti, that you're going to be able to one day grow in as well as me. But yeah, everyone just needs to stay humble, especially in this bull run. Make sure if you're self-custodying, you actually don't have any issues with that. Do some test transactions, make sure you can move it if you had to, make sure it's safe, and just stay humble during the bull market, right? And because at the end of the day, we don't know how crazy it could get. Like I said, if it goes to $1 million a coin, you perhaps don't want everyone knowing that you have whatever your stash is. That could perhaps end very badly. So stay humble, enjoy all the memeing. Let's go for the low hanging fruit on all of the regulators trying to ban Bitcoin, and let's change the world.
Let's go. Okay, guys. Well, shouts out to our base Zoomer with the algos. He is our newest social media member. So go follow him on Twitter at Bryson_fraught. That is his personal account, but he's helping us.
You got an extra letter in the last name. It's a typo.
Oh, do I?
That's why no one's been able to find it. I didn't realize it until just now.
How do we spell it?
FOUGHT.
FOU. Oh yeah. It's Bryson Fought. Oh yeah. This kid's name is Bryson Fought. This kid is fighting. Let's go. All right. Sorry guys. I guess I misspelled it the whole time. Anyways, Bryson, really appreciate you coming on the show. We'll bring you on all the time now. Just let us know when it fits with your schedule. On that note, guys, we really appreciate every single one of you guys. You already know the deal. Nico had to run. I think he has a meeting right now. So we're rolling this out. Like, subscribe, share. Don't just share Simply Bitcoin content. Share all Bitcoin content. As you can tell, we are on the mission to orange pill the world, win the hearts and minds of the masses out there. Make sure your friends and family are stacking. This is the way. On that note, guys, we will be back tomorrow, 12:15 p.m. Eastern time. We really appreciate all the support. We love you guys. Keep going hard in the chat. We love it. This is why we do it. And, keep stacking. Stay humble. Stack sats. This is the way. We will see you tomorrow. Peace out.
Was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.